Hello everyone, my name is Aratrika Banerjee. I am an assistant professor associated with the Department of CSEDS at Haldia Institute of Technology, and today I will be delivering a lecture on access control models. So what is access control? Access control is a process to determine who does what to what, meaning access control tells us that what person gets to access which object or which resource and what all operations he or she can perform on that resource or object. Access control policy also tells us at what time can a user access some resource, from which place can he or she access that resource, for what time duration can that resource be accessed. So all of these things are detailed in a security policy which is first approved by the higher management or top officials of an organization, and then only that security policy is implemented in the organization. So what are the elements of any access control model? So any access control model consists of four key elements, which are first the subjects, then the objects, the operations, and a reference monitor. So what are subjects? Subjects are the people or the users who are part of your information system, who are going to be using your information system, who are going to be accessing the resources or objects in your organization. Those are the subjects in any access control model. Second, we have the objects. Objects are nothing but the resources. What do we mean by resources? Resources can be anything from files, folders, or any kind of software. They can also be hardware resources, like suppose your email server or your database server. So things like that are called as objects in access control model. Third is operations. Operations is the ability of any subject to be able to access or not access any object, and in what ways can a subject access an object. For example, can a subject perform a read or write operation on a file, or if so, then for what time duration can a subject perform those operations, from which place, at what time. So all those things are detailed or held in the operations element. The fourth one is the reference monitor, which will be explained in detail in the next few slides. For now, let's come to an example to understand how access control model works. So let's consider a fictitious organization where you have 3 or 4 employees. We have Alice, who is an accountant, Bob, who is an IT personnel, Mary is the CEO of the organization, and Fred is some web designer associated with that same organization. We also have some resources in that organization. What are these resources? We have a financial database. Then we have an external web server, which is basically accessible to this is where your clients will be able to see things like what all you want to display on your public platform. That will be held in the external web server. Next, we also have an email server, which is going to be used for internal communications. So if we talk about who can access all of these resources, then what resource should Alice as an accountant be able to access? Alice should obviously have access to the financial database, because it contains information about all the financial transactions, and Alice is an accountant, so she needs to examine all those financial transactions. That's why Alice should have access to financial database. Does she need to make any changes on the external web server? Because this is what is exposed to the clients of the organization. So whatever changes that are needed to be shown on the public platform, is an accountant required to make those changes? I think not. So Alice does not require access to the external web server. She might also not need any access to the email server, because that's not required for what she's going to do as an accountant. Similarly, let's come to the IT personnel, Bob. So what all resources should Bob be able to access? Bob should have access to the external web server to have some control over it. For example, if any software needs to be deployed on a production environment, so anything does not break after deployment, to make sure that that does not happen, an IT personnel is required to maintain some control on the external website. Then maybe he also can access the email server, okay, just to administer the email server. He is not going to be able to read any emails. What about Mary? Mary is the CEO. Again, if we come to the next slide, see the example of Alice as an accountant. What all resources should she be able to access? Okay, so Alice should not be able to make any changes on the web server. Then coming to Mary as the CEO, should she be able to make any changes, or should she be able to overwrite or write any data onto the financial database as the CEO of the organization? There could obviously be a case that as the CEO, she can manipulate or falsify some financial data to show some false profits or false turnover. So that should not be the case, right? So any CEO, or Mary in this case, should not be able to write anything to the financial database. But since she needs to analyze the transactions or how the business is going of her organization, so for analyzing those data, she needs to have access to the financial database. Okay, so that is what is asked here as well. Should Mary be able to read but not write to the financial database? Same thing we come to Fred also. Let's talk about Fred. Fred is a web designer. Web designers make web pages. Web pages display contents that are visible to your clients or end users. So where is that public information going to be hosted? Obviously on the external web server. So Fred should have access to the external web server. Okay. So this is how we determine what all personnel should have what kind of access to which resources. So all of these things are detailed in an access control model, which then helps us to enforce these security constraints. Now coming to the reference monitor. So the reference monitor is the actual entity or the element which helps us to enforce all the security constraints detailed in any access control model. So in this reference monitor, we have already discussed what is a subject and what is an object. A new entity which we see is, first let's come to the audit trail. So audit trail is nothing but a logging mechanism which keeps track of what subject or which person accessed which object or resource and what was the nature of that access. Like whether a person performed a reading operation on some file, or whether a person accessed some database server or wrote something on the database server, at which time did that operation take place, that all of that information is tracked by or is recorded in the audit trail. Okay. Next, we have the authorization database, which actually holds all the roles and the permissions that each subject has over each object. So, what the reference monitor actually does is it cross-references all the data stored in the authorization database. What does the authorization database hold? All the roles and permissions of each subject over each object. The reference monitor cross-references the data stored in the authorization database with each subject and each object to actually enforce the access control model or the access control policy. So this is what I was talking about, the audit trail. Audit trail is nothing but it is a logging mechanism. Logging is often required by law for various institutions. Okay, so you have an IT audit or you have a security audit. You must have heard about those kinds of processes. Coming to the reference monitor, the reference monitor compares the information or cross-references the information from the authorization database with the subject or object to determine the proper access allowed. So again, reiterating all the points which we have discussed, which are what are the elements of any access control model. So subjects are the system users and groups of users. So in any organization, you can group different people. Okay, like suppose in an IT organization, you can have junior developers, then you can have senior developers. Above senior developers, you can have project managers. So there are certain privileges given to project managers. For example, for approving any leave, only project managers or the HRs of your company can approve the leaves. Junior developers or senior developers cannot do such a task. Okay, so for different groups, there are different activities which are allowed. Okay, and all those information about which activity is allowed for which group is stored or enforced by any access control model. Then we have the objects, which can be any software or hardwares like files or printers or any computers on your network. Then those objects can be accessed in many ways, or many operations can be performed on those objects, like we can perform a web access or a server access or memory access, and method calls. Method calls you would become familiar with if you work on a cloud platform. Okay. So now coming to the different types of access control models. So here we have three types, which are discretionary access model, the mandatory access control model, and the role-based access control model. And today I will also briefly be discussing with you about the task-based access control model. Coming to the discretionary access control model. So this or the DAC model is based on the discretion or judgment of the data owner. So whoever creates any resource becomes the owner of that resource, and it is up to the owner to decide which user gets what kind of access to the resource which the owner has created. So for example, if you have ever worked with Google Documents, if you have ever created a Google Doc and you want to share that Google Doc with some other users, then you must have seen a box coming up on the screen where in one portion you can list out all the users with whom you want to share the resource. So that is your access control list. The second component is a drop down list, which basically allows you to choose whether those users can have editor access or just a viewer access. Okay, so that is how an owner can enforce access control in the discretionary access control model. So this is the most common access control model found in commercial systems like Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. Next, coming to a more complex access control model, which is the mandatory access control model. So here, instead of the data owner, it is the operating system that makes the decision on which user can access which resource, and this decision or this parameter is decided on by a security policy of the organization. Okay, so like we see here, the data owners cannot grant access to the resource which they have created. So the how to decide which user gets access to which data, so that decision again is made based on a security policy. That security policy basically defines 3 or 4 levels of clearances. Okay, so typically we see the confidential clearance level, or the secret clearance level, or the top secret clearance level. So users and data are both have given some kind of clearance or assigned some kind of clearance level. So you must have seen in espionage movies where we have some security personnel or some agents who are given top secret clearance. If they have top secret clearance, then they are able to access very sensitive information. Okay, for some people who have suppose level 1 clearance, they are not able to access a higher level of information. Okay, so these are very real time examples which usually happens in the military. Okay, so the rules for access are configured by the security officer and enforced by the OS. So all of these security clearance levels are assigned to different subjects and objects by a security officer, and the access control is enforced by the operating system. Here in the operating system, we have the reference monitor. So it is actually the operating system which is acting as the reference monitor, which again accesses the authorization database where the security officer has stored all the clearance levels for each subject and object. So the reference monitor accesses the authorization database. It checks what all clearance levels are there for each subject and each object, and based on that, it allows subjects to access different objects. Okay. Next, okay, like I said, the operating system makes the decision based on a security label system. And here again, the reference monitor, so this is actually the operating system which acts as the reference monitor, and it enforces, the operating system enforces the rules of access on the members of the organization. So if security of your data is of utmost importance, then that is where you would find applications of the mandatory access control model. So if there is very sensitive information that you need to protect, very common example or an example that makes sense is the military or any espionage agency. So that is where you would find this model being used. In commercial systems, MAC model is generally not used. So MAC model is not built into any commercial systems which you buy for your normal workspace or your home. But still, if you want to implement the mandatory access control model on your computer system, then there are a couple of operating systems that would allow you to do that very like famous examples are Trusted Solaris, which you need to buy. This is an operating system which you need to buy and install on your computer system. Another one is the Secure Enabled Linux, which was actually designed by the National Security Agency of the USA. And you will be able to download this operating system from the NSA website, and you will be able to install it on your computer system. But bear in mind that you need to be very adept at handling Mac OS models or the operating systems which are based on mandatory access control, because otherwise there is a very good chance that you would lock yourself out from the system. Okay, so you need to read up a lot on both of these operating systems if you want to use them in real life in your computer systems. Okay, now how mandatory access control is different from discretionary access control is: in DAC, obviously it is the data owner who will be able to determine the access, whereas in Mac it is the operating system which is going to decide the access. Now, what are the sensitivity labels in a mandatory access control model? So again, all objects in a Mac system have a security label. They can be either confidential, secret, or top secret, or they could be assigned some labels like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So all of these, it's not necessary that only secret, top secret, or confidential security levels are going to be used. So all these security labels are dependent on an organization. It is up to the organization to decide the security labels. Okay. So again, that is what is written here. Security labels and categories can be defined by an organization. So the security levels are organization dependent. Apart from the security levels that an organization can have, there is also a security level called as need to know, which means that if there is a need for any user to know any kind of information, then that user is going to have need to know clearance for any resource or any file or any object. Okay. Now, a question which arises here is, if suppose someone has the highest level of clearance, for example, let us consider the three security levels here: confidential, secret, and top secret, where top secret is the highest clearance level where you can access the most sensitive information. So if some user or some person has the top secret level of clearance, can he or she be able to access all the information in the secret level or all the information in the confidential level? The answer is no. Even if a person has the highest security clearance, unless and until there is a need for him to know certain information, he or she will not be able to access information even if it is at a lower security clearance. Okay. So this phenomenon will be better understood with the help of this flow chart. See, we have plotted here the three security levels: confidential being the lowest security clearance, secret being the next highest, and top secret being the highest security clearance. So here, if someone has confidential security clearance, then can he read information at the secret level? The answer is no. Can a person having secret security clearance be able to read top secret information? Again, the answer is no. That means you cannot read up. You cannot read information that is available at a higher level of security clearance. Okay, can again, let me separate this flowchart. So again, in this flowchart, we can see, can read up? No, that means you cannot read higher level of information if you have lower level of security clearance. Can you read down? Like I mentioned, if you have the necessary need to know, that means if there is a necessity for you to know some information, then only if you have a top secret level of clearance, then only you will be able to read lower level of information. Okay, so you need to have the proper need to know to be able to access any resource at the lower security clearance. So a person, given the fact that let a person have the necessary need to know, then if he has top secret level of clearance, then he can read secret information. He can also read confidential information if that confidential information is required to be known to that person. Okay, so you can read down the security levels if you have the proper need to know clearance. Okay. What about writing to the upper security clearance? So a person having a confidential security clearance can create any object or resource which can later be classified as secret or top secret. But what happens is, once that resource gets a higher security clearance, the person who wrote it, even though he has written or created that resource, that person will not be able to access that information. So suppose if you have confidential level of clearance, you have created some object or resource, and that resource later gets classified as secret or top secret, then even though it was you who had created that resource in the first place, you yourself will not be able to read that object or read that or get access to that object. So that is what is displayed here. You can create a higher security level of resource, but you yourself cannot access it if you do not have the proper clearance for it. So again, this phenomenon is displayed with the help of this picture. So if you consider this person as having top security clearance, then he is able to access the information in all the servers. Where server 1 is top secret, server 2 is secret information, server 3 is classified information. So the person having top secret clearance, if he has the requisite need to know, then he'll be able to access all these three types of information. Whereas if you consider this person as having say a secret level of clearance, then he'll only be able to access secret information, and if he has the proper need to know, then he'll be able to access classified information as well. Whereas coming to these two individuals who both have a classified level of clearance, so both of these people will be able to access only classified information, will not be able to access secret information or top secret information. Similarly, if you again come back to the second person, he will not be able to access top secret information because he does not have top secret clearance.